think we're in.
We in?
We're in.
I have no idea. I'm gonna
we have done it.
Might have done it. I think might have done it. Oh, here it is.
It says it's live on my end, so.
It's live. We're live. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay, we are now streaming live. Technical difficulty resolved, I hope. Hopefully you all can hear us. Hi, everybody. It's Tracy here. So excited you're here for 20 Seconds of Courage. I've got Katryn Flynn with me today. Say hi. But before I have to show you a very important thing. My new t-shirt. That's my new t-shirt. It was my birthday yesterday, as many of you know. And I bought myself this awesome vintage 1972 t-shirt. So that's all I have to share about that. Yay.
Did we get the Facebook community to sing happy birthday to you?
No, we will not. I had a lot of amazing well wishes. They're still pouring in. Like, it's really, Facebook birthdays are very overwhelming, like in a very good way. It's like this outpouring of love and just messages, and it's really nice. Between the text messages and the phone messages and the Facebook messages, it's been really an amazing birthday week. Because, you know, I never just take my birthday. It's the whole week around it. So
as you should.
As it should. All right. I'm so excited to talk to you all today, and especially to Katryn, my dear friend Katryn, a fellow Oiler. And we're going to talk today about busy-itis, burnout, boundaries, procrastination, and probably a lot more. And we'll see where it takes us. So I'm excited for you all to be on this journey. This is our first official interview-ish conversation. So I'm excited that Katryn volunteered volunteered and recruited to be my first guinea pig.
I love being a guinea pig. Let's do it.
I know. And I think that's what you said. You're like, I'm up for it. I'll be a guinea pig. So, and I think it's really important. Part of what I said last week about doing these conversations is I really feel it's important for people to remember that they're not alone in their experiences and in their feelings. I know for myself, it's really easy to isolate myself and think nobody could possibly understand what I'm going through. Nobody can relate. I'm alone. And, you know, and then it spirals into this whole dark place. And I think that more than ever in this world, we need connection. We need to know that we're not alone, and we need to share each other's stories to get where we are and where we're coming from, because I think it's not about comparison. And I think in the world of social media, it's really easy to compare and despair instead of admire and aspire. And I think that one of the things I'm looking to close the gap on is really this idea of identifying with people's stories instead of creating this hierarchy, or like in our brains, we go, oh, well, I'm better than that, or I'm worse than that. Or we make all these assumptions without really knowing the whole story. And social media is one of those things where I love it and hate it, because it's a lot of highlight reels and we don't really see the behind the scenes. So I really want to get behind the scenes a little bit, because I want to know what's real. I think that we've gotten so accustomed to seeing highlight reels and not reality. And I'm not talking reality TV. I'm talking like real life. Like, what's the real story? What's the truth? What's the honest, vulnerable thing that we're all experiencing? Because we all experience it. This is really about being human. So with that, I'm so excited to bring in Katryn. I'm so excited you took the time out today. I want to apologize those of you that logged on originally and I had technical difficulty. I'm using my my laptop instead of my digital device, my mobile device, and I had to like switch to Zoom and streaming. So hopefully this is coming through beautifully. It's really a blessing in disguise, because this is how I'll do it from now on, because it's obvious. I love working on Zoom, and Facebook Live can sometimes be a little tentative. So Katryn, welcome, girl. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what's going on for you.
Okay, so again, hi, my name is Katryn. I do live in New Jersey on my little mountain here in Hackettstown. Like Tracy mentioned earlier, I am a fellow oiler. Oiling and essential oils was something that I really got into because of my history, my medical history. So when I was really young, like really young, like 12, 13, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And I mean, not like just the anxiety that you feel like before a big test or a big interview, like, no, like debilitating anxiety where like I wouldn't leave the house and I wouldn't eat. So was medicated for a long time with that. And then the oils really found me at the most perfect opportunity in my life. And I've been using them for over 4 years now in lieu of that medication, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
So if you guys know anything about anxiety disorder, it's constant stress and constant feeling of comparison and am I good enough? And oh my gosh, what if I embarrass myself? And it's something that I still deal with and manage on a daily basis. And a lot of it comes from, again, like you said, Tracy, like comparison. I think it's so easy to, especially with social media, it's so easy to look at what other people are doing with their lives and compare it to what you're doing with your life. You know, I think we always see people traveling and hanging out with friends and loving on their family. And I feel like sometimes you wonder if you're doing enough as a person.
Mm-hmm. I so relate to this. I never knew, like I had heard anxiety, depression all my life. And depression was easier for me to kind of understand for some reason. Like I understood lows, like feeling blue. I might sneeze, just saying. It's allergy season here in New Jersey, you guys, and it's really brutal.
It's real.
The struggle is real. And even though I have essential oils and I'm managing it, every now and again, you get a little dust or some pollen in your nose and it's just like, whoo. But back to this. So I didn't really realize that I had anxiety. It always, for me, like the words I used was like my nervous system felt wrecked. Like I felt like somebody had taken my spinal column and plugged it in to a socket. I never knew what it was until about 6 years ago when I had a NEO done with one of my coaches, which is like, kind of like a personality assessment type thing. Anyway, the long story short is there's a section of it that talks about neuroticism and anxiety. The first question, am I neurotic? Perhaps I'm neurotic. I don't know. But the first question that she asked me was, are you medicated? Now, I'm like, you don't know me very well, do you? Like, I'm an oiler. Like, everything in my house is, I don't even have Tylenol in my house. You know, I don't have Tums. I don't have Tylenol. I don't have any of that. I use everything from doTERRA. And, you know, so I said to her, what are you talking about? She goes, well, okay, so here's where normal anxiety lives. Here's where high anxiety is. And you're somewhere up here. And I thought, oh, she goes, so I'm a little bit confused because she herself has anxiety, and she's been medicated. And I said, she's like, I'm a little confused as to how you're managing this level of intense anxiety. And I said, well, I do yoga, I meditate, and I use essential oils. And she was blown away by that because she says, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it seems to be working. That being said, obviously it doesn't change the fact, and that's why I'm so excited about adaptive. But it doesn't change the fact that we still struggle with it, you know? And I think what you said was so interesting is that it really comes about this idea of like, is it going to be enough? Am I going to be enough? This comparing of like, I'm different than other people, and other people don't get what I'm going through. And I think it's important to remember that we aren't alone, which is what I was saying earlier. Sorry, I'm getting like pop-ups here. That it's very much, we have to remember that we're not alone in this experience. It's part of why I wanted to do this series of interviews and conversations, because I think for me especially, and I think it could be maybe it's part of my anxiety. Who knows? I'm learning something new, right? Like that it could be that like, I feel like I'm separate and different because of it. So interesting. So tell me now, so you're using essential oils to managing it now exclusively, right?
Yeah. I have been off the medication for over 4 years now.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And let me tell you, it's the most freeing thing. It really is, because I got to a point where I almost felt like, not almost, I definitely felt like the medication actually was exacerbating my anxiety, because I didn't know what to do without it.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's an interesting thing. Yeah. Huh.
And yeah, and so long story short, something happened to my medication that I wasn't going to be able to take it, and I was getting it by mail. And so it was going to take like a week or two for me to get in. In that time, somebody introduced me to essential oils. And I'm not going to lie, like I almost spit. I was like, because she was like, oh, why don't you think, have you ever thought about trying something else? I'm like, please tell me where to begin. Please tell me. Because if my doctor hasn't told me, what are you going to introduce to me that's better? So really, when she said essential oils, I was like, funny, right? Your joke, that's a joke? No? Okay. And then I realized, what have I got to lose? And it ended up being the greatest thing. But it's still something that you realize there's so many more components to it than just feeling nervous or nauseous or afraid. And there's so many things that add to it. And I think that's when we come up with this concept of being busy, to, because you have, especially with social media too, like you have everything coming at you, whichever which way. And we're always constantly being hit by notifications and emails and, oh, I have to do this. I have to go do that. Look at this event that's coming up. And then we have all this FOMO that's happening. And for anybody who doesn't know, FOMO is short for fear of missing out, which, hey, big time FOMO. And I've got a type A personality, so everything has got to be perfect. I think it's worth mentioning that when I was diagnosed with this anxiety disorder, I was also diagnosed with a slight comorbidity of OCD. So again, type A personality to a T. And it's just a lot to handle and manage. And my mom used to tell me, because I used to want to do all these things, and I used to be involved in all of these activities when I was younger. Like, I had to be in dance, I had to be in Girl Scouts, I had to be doing cheer, I had to be doing tumbling, I had to be doing service projects and whatever. And my mom used to tell me, like, you can't do everything. You can't do everything. And I think it's something that at almost 28, I'm still working on learning what I can and can't do, what's physically possible, what's mentally possible, and learning that there are some things that I really, if I have to say no. But with FOMO and the anxiety, it's hard to say no to a lot of things.
Yeah, I think saying no was a really big thing, like creating really clear boundaries. I think also a lot of times we fear saying no because we think the next question will be, why? What do you have? What else is going on? And one of the things I've learned through my journey is no is a complete sentence. That's it. No, that doesn't work for me. You don't need to justify, argue, defend, or explain why. You're making boundaries for your safety and health and well-being. Mm-hmm. And for you to really, like, I was just talking about this on an interview that I was on, this concept of like, time is a non-renewable resource. It can be expanded through delegation and through choice. Like, if you have 2 hands in 24 hours versus 4 hands and 24 hours, with 4 hands in 24 hours, you can delegate, split, divide and conquer. Teamwork makes the dream work, as I like to say, which is hokey, but totally true. It's a very interesting idea, but the concept of like missing out, and you said something about social media. And I think like one of the things I always try to do, like, and actually I did it for a while, and I just did a social media fast. And I just shut down. I shut off. I shut down. I was like, it's too much noise and too much. Look at this. 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 And I actually stopped following a lot of Facebook pages and some people that were just like, I was getting too bombarded with it was like overstimulation. And for someone who's anxious, overstimulation is like I said, it's like, I'm already charged, don't plug me into a socket. It's like your battery will, you know what I mean? It's like, so I think that that's a very interesting thing to think about, is this concept of like fear of missing out will keep us busy or keep us not creating boundaries, and will burn us out very fast, because we're moving, we're constantly trying to make sure we can do all the things we need to do in order to feel worthy, in order to feel lovable, acceptable, and successful, if you will.
Well, and I think that,
yeah,
I was just gonna say, I think there's a lot of expectations from friends and family as to what they think you should and shouldn't be doing too. And a lot of that comes with, not wanting to let people down too.
Yeah, and that's like classic people pleasing, codependency 101, right? I think the first step, I'm paraphrasing, is came to believe our lives have become unmanageable. And what one of the, in the Serenity Prayer, which I actually have over there, because I think it's such a valuable mantra, it's, I think they said, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. When we've changed in codependency, we'd say, God grant me the serenity to accept the people I cannot change, the courage to change the people I can, and the wisdom to know that the only person I can change is me.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think that's really important, because we're so outwardly focused. We're so outwardly focused. I know for myself, my early journey was about looking to what other people's expectations were, what they were doing, how I can fit that mold so that I can be accepted, loved, and feel like I'm enough, and I'm doing enough, and I'm keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. It was exhausting, because at no point does that equation allow, excuse me, at no point does that equation allow for your own self, your own light to shine, right? It shines, but it's like you're manipulating yourself to fit the mold that doesn't necessarily resonate with who you are. And it's exhausting. So no wonder you start to procrastinate. Like, procrastination comes when you're not excited about something, right? I feel like procrastination for me comes when I'm not excited about something, when it's not a hell yes, when I'm not sure it's what I want, when I'm tired. Like, if I'm really just tired and fatigued and my mind is not still and focused.
That overwhelm.
Yeah, it's like, that's why I practice yoga and meditation, because it is what keeps me grounded and centered and really connecting into what do I need? What am I feeling? And what do I need? What am I feeling? What do I need? And I think we keep asking ourselves, what am I feeling? What do I need? Separate from, if I say this, what will other people think? Because that's where we get down the rabbit hole, right? It's like, we think like, okay, well, this is what I feel and this is what I need. But if I say that, this person's going to react this way, this way, this way. This is how they're going to, and we anticipate. I was just talking to somebody about this. Like, we anticipate the expectation, the response and reactions, and we alter our behavior before that's even real. Do you notice that? Is that crazy?
Yeah. And then it becomes that's where the catch-22 comes in. Like, you're anxious because of how you think this person's going to react, and then you're so busy thinking about how that person's going to react that you're just getting more anxious about how they're going to react.
It is true. It moves you around and you wind up spinning. It's actually called spinning, like, because this is what I want, this is what they want, this is what I want, this is what they want. If I move this way, they're going to do this. And so it's just like this big dance, and we go nowhere. Mm-hmm. We go nowhere. And here's where the anxiety comes in. We go nowhere, but we feel like we are spinning. And it's this, like, this internal tornado, right? A twister that just spins us around like the Tasmanian devil. I know for me, like, in my heightened anxiety, I can't, like, communicate. I can't see straight. I need to control everything. And that just spins me completely out of control. It's such an irony, right? Like trying to control everything, you know. Second step, I don't know why I'm talking recovery, like second step is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, right? To realize that. And then third step is made a decision to turn our lives over to the care of God as we understand God. So like this concept that we can't change other people, we're not really doing it alone, and that if we can surrender what other people are thinking and just focus on ourselves, and PS, that's not selfish. I constantly have to say this, like internal focus, self-care is not selfish. It's a service to everybody. Taking care of yourself first is of service to everybody else around you.
Absolutely.
And I think that when I've learned, like when I realize that my decisions and someone else's reactions, what they think is not my business, right? They have their own higher power. I have my own higher power. We happen to be on this road alongside of each other, but I can't control how they're going to react or respond, try as I might.
Mm-hmm. And I think you actually in that had a lot of good tips for setting boundaries. So not only setting boundaries, but for saying no to things. And again, like that concept of spinning, like we feel like we need to constantly be doing things and worrying about other things. So I recently had to back out of a commitment I had made. Granted, I do want to mention backing out of a commitment is not necessarily or not always the same thing as flaking. I understand that sometimes we need to back out of things. It's just a little side note. I understand that sometimes we need to back out of things for mental health reasons. However, if you have a prior commitment to something and then something else comes up for the same day that you want to do more, but a friend or a family member is expecting you to hold that commitment, please don't back out of that. So the reason that I backed out of this commitment that I had made was because I had plenty of time to do it so that somebody could find a replacement for me. Mm-hmm. I also offered them a replacement person for me, but it also was not something that I was excited about, and that really set my soul on fire. And I think that, like you said, Tracy, if it's not exciting you, if it's not setting your heart on fire, your soul on fire, I think that's a good place to start to know what you have to say no to. Mm-hmm. And you have to be unapologetic about it. So when I messaged this girl that had booked me for this thing, and I said to her, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. But I can no longer do this, but I have this girl who's super excited about it, reach out to her. I truly was apologetic for the inconvenience that it may have caused her, because she had to, now be in touch with another person, but I'm not sorry for backing out of it. And that's because it wasn't a priority of mine. And right now my priorities are getting myself right again, my head back into a good space. And also my priority is building my business and caring for other people through the use of essential oils and showing them how to take their health back as well, and their mental health, and showing them how to do that. And I knew that this thing that I had previously said yes to was not in line with that. Mm-hmm. So you have to think about what's in line with your priorities. Yeah. And honestly, after I had messaged her and said no to this, I really felt this relief, this weight off my shoulders. And I said, okay, because now I have more time to focus on what needs to be done and my family that's important to me and all these other things that I have going on. So you almost have to take certain eggs out of your own basket, so to speak.
I think that's such a good point that you make. I think that we overcommit so much. And not everything is a hell yes. And I have a coach that used to say to me, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. I think that's
Exactly.
I think that's a really great boundary to create. Like, sit with it. And I think a lot of times we say yes in the moment, and then we like, So, and I've done that. And I don't think it's flaking. I agree with you. I think sometimes we just have to reprioritize and reorganize our schedules. I know my schedule, my schedule is insane. I won't even show you guys what my calendar looks like. It might make you sick. Like, and I think that I have had to say to people, I have overcommitted myself and I am sorry, but we can reschedule, or I can suggest something else, like I just can't fit something else in there. And you do sometimes have to reshuffle things around. It is human nature. It is okay to change your mind, but you also, changing your mind also is good, but that's so long as you're also making decisions to move yourself forward. Because I think there's a tendency to just sort of like mull, and then we stagnate, and then we feel like we're not getting anything done, and then we feel unsuccessful, and then it spins us right back into let me get busy. And busy is not productive. I want to be really clear on that. I have a lot of clients that come to me and say, I'm so busy, I don't have time, I don't have any more hours in the day. I'm like, really? What are you using those hours for? Because I could say I'm busy, but I choose to spend about 2 hours on the couch watching TV at night. That's not necessarily a good use of my time, but it's a choice that I make, and I'm unapologetic about it. Like, I like to binge watch. It is for me. I'm a TV junkie. I have no problem admitting that. I love television. Is it a best use of my time? Probably not. Are there days when I'm just like, no TV, I'm going to bed? Yes, absolutely. But that's a decision I make.
And sometimes you need to come home and shut your brain off. There are times, like I think I was texting you yesterday, I had worked a 9-hour shift, and I came home and I needed to, after being there and dealing with other people and constantly thinking about, okay, the next task, you have to come home and you have to let your brain rest. Because if your brain is not resting, you're perpetuating those anxious feelings and that busyness, the unproductive busyness. Sometimes you need to come home, and maybe that's your form of self-care. But again, as long as you limit it to maybe only 2 hours, you have to set time frames.
Correct.
And boundaries for yourself as well as for other people.
Yeah, and I think I think also, for me, procrastination will come when I do that for too long a period of time. So if you find yourself just sitting on the couch watching TV for 5, 6, 7 hours, and that kind of technology, consistently being around technology, will drain your energy. It will really drain your energy. Thank God for cypress oil and conifers, But like, I think that it's important to have it's important to have a schedule, and it's important to be able to know what it is that you desire and say no to certain things unapologetically, as you said. And I think it's really important to prioritize what you're going to focus your attention on, because when you don't, that's when burnout happens.
And to be clear on what you want to focus your attention on.
Totally. So I'll give you an example of this. So I recently, in 2016, I closed down my business, and I had a period of time in there. It's about 2.5 years, no more, like 2 years, 2 full years, almost 2 full years. So it was like a year and like 9 months, where I was very quickly like, when you change close that kind of chapter in your life, because I had the studio for 15 years, there's like this roller coaster that happens. It's a dip in emotions, and a dip in finances. It's a dip in like, what am I going to do next? And like, it just, it had to happen, and it was the hardest, rightest decision I had ever made. But the repercussions of that were very physical, mental, and emotional. And my instinct was to just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, move, 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 move. And really, that was just draining my energy. And it didn't allow me the space to see clearly. And it really took like me going into a place of burnout and exhaustion and getting fatigued and sick for me to say, whoa, 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 I need to back off. And because I saw myself recreating things that I didn't want to recreate and just going by rote, going by habit. And it's very easy for us to just do what feels comfortable and normal instead of having a pattern interrupt. And so I just basically shut down and stopped. And I was like, that's it. I'm going meditation. I went to recovery meetings. I went and journaled. I prayed. I did a lot of self-development work to see like reading and working steps and seeing like, what do I want next? What is the best way for me to learn what's happening for me and make choices consciously moving forward so that my next chapter is better. It takes what I've done and learns from it and keeps what works and leaves what doesn't, because otherwise we just keep recreating the same thing over and over again. And that spin out comes back. So,
and that can be isolating in itself.
Totally.
And in a world where we want to be together, we crave connection.
Exactly.
But if you're burning out, you're not giving yourself the energy to connect with other people or the ability to genuinely connect with other people.
Exactly. And that's why I think consistent self-care comes in. That's where I think consistent self-care comes in, whether it's yoga, meditation, prayer, walking, exercise of any sort, moving your body, dancing, good sleep, getting rid of toxicity in your environment. That's not just toxic smells, but it's toxic people. I know that some people don't want to hear that because we're not ready to make those changes in our life necessarily, or we're afraid of it. And I think that's why conversations like this are so important, because other people have done it. Other people do it every single day. We assess, we remove toxicity, and I think it's important to recognize that you're not alone and there are people there to support you. For me, it's also always starts with what I put into my body, what I consume, whether that's social media, whether that's conversations with people, whether it's television, whether it's the food I eat, the supplements I take, the air I breathe, all the things I put on my body, like the consumption that we have. I think that's why I love the fact that I have, that's why I love that I have doTERRA as an anchor in all of that. And I think that's important. I think the mindset's important. I think how we use our money is important. How we make our money is important. There's nothing, and I think that it goes to show, like we're talking today about busyness, boundaries, procrastination. What was the other one?
Saying no, being unapologetic.
Being unapologetic.
About saying no. Being unapologetic about saying no to something.
Right. So all of those things. Now I forgot my thought. I forgot my train of thought. It'll come back to me. It's all right. But I think those are important things to realize, that we're not alone in experiencing them. And when we have a basis of self-care and we create healthy boundaries, and I think people are often confused about boundaries. What is your take on boundaries?
In regards to people, activities, because there's so many aspects of boundaries to me. I've learned a lot in the past, I'll say 3 years, especially about setting boundaries with people. Because I think sometimes we fight to have relationships with certain people as well. And sometimes they don't want to have the relationship with us that we want to have with them. And I don't necessarily mean romantically. I mean friendships, family, even. And sometimes you have to step back and let it go. And what I've learned really is that the people who want to make time for you will make time for you. And if they want something of you and to be around you and be around you as a person and as a friend, they will do it. I think especially in discussing business, we work so hard to make these connections with people because we know that they need something, but then they cancel on us, something else comes up, or we get a flat out no. Maybe that's them setting a boundary too, first of all. But also maybe they're not ready to hear what we have to say. And if it's something that they want, and if it's something that they want to hear, they'll make time for it and they'll come to us. And so you have to allow yourself to make a boundary, not to chase them anymore, not to go after these certain friendships or certain relationships that maybe don't want to give and receive the same way that you want to. But maybe it's about realizing, okay, maybe they're setting a boundary for themselves as well. Or maybe they have a mental block. Maybe there's their own something. Everybody's always got something going on here.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between a fear-based boundary and an actual boundary that's made from a place of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing sexier than a boundary set from self-awareness. I think it's one of the sexiest things ever. I have friends from all over the globe that have like such strong boundaries, and it's just something I aspire to. I remember the first time I met someone with healthy, self-aware boundaries. I was like, I want that. I want to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between that and boundaries that are made from a mindset of lack. So I think that there's a very different boundary there. There's a self-awareness, and then there's a boundary that's sort of like a knee-jerk reaction. You know what I mean? It's like a knee-jerk conditioned boundary, like that most people will say no immediately without, to most things. Like I know a lot of people will say, no, I don't want to do that. Nope, I don't want to go there. Nope, I don't want to experience that. They just say no, no, no for other reasons, but they haven't done that inner work to really understand why they're saying no. And if they really want to say no, or if there's another reason why they're saying no, you know what I mean? So, but self-aware boundaries are really very sexy, I think.
And I think that once you start setting boundaries, like you start realizing, like once you set one boundary, like a legitimate self-aware boundary, like you said, I think once you set one or two of those, you start realizing that maybe you need to do it more often, and it becomes a little bit easier the next time you have to do it. It becomes a little bit easier to notice, okay, well, this is a negative person. I don't need to be spending my time and energy on them. This is a negative situation. I don't need to be spending my time and energy on that. Because let's face it, I don't care how busy you are or how not busy you are, there's just not enough hours in the day for everything that we want and need to do. So it becomes super important to make sure that we recognize these toxic scenarios or negative people and start cutting them. And I don't mean you have to cut them out of your lives completely. I mean, maybe every time they ask you to hang out, you say, I have other plans today, or no, I'm going to take a me day, or thank you for the invitation, but thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah. And I think that when people talk about time, like not having enough time, assessing what your relationships are, the relationships that you want to spend time with, assessing how you're using your time will help with the busyness and the procrastination, right? Because they kind of go hand in hand. We get busy because we're either in avoidance or we think we have to be busy. Like, I don't know about you, but my experience with being busy is often not very productive. you know, like I've got a lot of stuff going on, but I don't necessarily feel like busy doesn't always feel productive to me. Busy for me feels like there's a lot of things that are in my head. I'm not really grounded, and I'm just going to kind of spin around like a crazy gerbil in a hamster wheel. A hamster in a hamster wheel? A gerbil in a hamster wheel?
I totally understand that. I totally understand that, because I'll have a busy day at work, and it'll be a busy day. We'll have a lot of people or a lot of tasks to complete. And then I come home and I feel unfulfilled. And I think that's when you also realize the difference between being busy and being productive is that level of fulfillment. Are you going to bed and having these thoughts running through your head going, I didn't do this today. I didn't get to do that today. Oh, I was supposed to do this. I'll have to do it tomorrow. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. And that's where a lot of the anxiety stems from too, because there's a huge, like you said, a huge difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah. And for me this year, and this is like, I think a strong point to drive home is I've learned this year that when you really want productivity, you have to make a decision that that's what you want. You have to make daily, consistent, right action. And accountability is really important. Accountability and community is really important, because otherwise it's really easy to flake on ourselves, because a lot of times we say no. What ends up happening, like if we're like interweaving this with the boundary thing, like we will flake on ourselves and we don't keep commitment to ourselves, whether that's with self-care, with our use of our time, with the things that we're going to take action on. We don't keep those commitments to ourselves. And then we feel like we didn't get anything done, and we feel disappointed and sad. And then we focus our attention outside of ourselves, because, sometimes taking care of ourselves, we have issues around shame and guilt. And, if I take care of myself, what are other people going to think? And it's selfish and all those things.
So what are your top ways of making sure that you stay on track with what you need to do? And making sure that you go to sleep at night, you lay down at night with that feeling of I've been productive. I've been productive and not busy.
So I will often, and when I do it, it feels great. Like I will take time, like Sunday evening, for instance. And Sunday evening, usually it's Saturday night, because Sunday I have time and energy because I don't have anything on Monday. So like Saturday night, like I'll look at the menu, for instance, because food planning for me is really important, especially when my fall schedule gets really, really busy. Excuse me. So I will make a menu, and I'll go down on Sunday. I'll make the menu Saturday, and on Sunday I'll do all food prep. So I'll cut up carrots and celery. I'll hard boil eggs. I'll make tuna fish. I'll have some of the simple stuff that I can have. I'll make a big salad so that I have food prepared and ready to go that I can grab and go with. So there's less food prep to do during the week. So
preparation is a big part of it.
Huh?
So preparation is a big part of staying on task.
Preparation is huge. Like I'll make a list of the top 3 things I want to get done the following day. And I will, because I have I'm a list maker. I'm a Libra. You know what I mean? Like I make lists of lists of lists. So I have one note in my phone that has like an ongoing list. And I usually pull up the top 3 to the top of that list. And I make sure those 3 things get done that day. And if one doesn't get done, then that goes to the top the next day. Or I look at it and say, is that really a priority? Maybe it's not. Maybe something else is more of a priority. For me, meditation and journaling are huge for me to really get clear on what has to get done. And then I just make a decision. Like I know that every day I'm going to do some sort of movement in my body, whether it's working out, yoga, riding a bike, walking. Something has to get done for at least 30 minutes. I'm going to work out. I'm going to eat well. Those 2 priorities do not get compromised unless I'm traveling or I'm at a party, and then I know, but that's already in my calendar, right? So I know ahead of time that that's going to be, I'm not going to eat as well as I normally do. But did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Just looking for top ways to stay on task. Preparation, prioritization.
Right, preparation, prioritization, and making a decision on what it is that you want. Like, what is the end result that you want? Because it's easy for us to make decisions on day-to-day things, but the end result, the long-term goal, or the short, like let's say 90 days to 6 months, what do you want? In 90 days to 6 months, chunking it down makes a huge difference because it doesn't feel as overwhelming. So 90 days to 6 months, if that's too much, 30 days. What do you want in the next 7 days? Like, these are the tasks I want done by Friday. And then prioritize them and then take daily action towards it. You have to do something every day towards it, because that procrastination will kick in. I was an English major in college. I wrote all of my papers. Hope none of my English teachers are watching this. I wrote almost all of my papers in the last 48 hours. Not recommended. But that stress sometimes forces us to push through. So I'm not saying that some pressure and healthy stress can help activate us, but I don't recommend it. I recommend daily right action, even if it's something small every single day to move you forward.
And what do you say to people who maybe are stuck in a procrastination loop and are having a tough time getting out of it? Because it's so easy to come home from a long day of work and sit down and order takeout and sit in front of the TV instead of building their business or working towards their dream. So what do you say, like, what's a good motivator for you or to other people to get out of that procrastination loop?
So there's a couple things. I ask some questions. I ask, what are you really spending your time on? If you're procrastinating on this thing that you say you really want, where are you focusing your time? That's the first thing. Then I'd say, well, if you're saying this is what you really want, why aren't you taking action? What would happen if you took action every day? You know, what would happen if you made a phone call every day? What if you happened to make 5 contacts every day? What would happen if you reach this goal? How would it feel if you got to this place? Right? Because a lot of times we come back and we're so drained, we're not in the energetic vortex of how it's going to feel when we accomplish that goal. And I think when your goal becomes non-negotiable and unapologetic, you do what has to get done to make it happen. And other things that aren't as important will have to take second fiddle or third fiddle or move down the line. You know, there's a lot of things that, if you focus on one thing, you give it 100% of your attention. If you focus on 2 things, now each one is getting only 40% attention, because it also takes energy to switch gears. So sometimes it's just really good to just focus all of it towards that and just go. And just know that this is your top priority. So if you have one top priority, and I would keep it simple, because as an anxiety-ridden person myself, simple is sustainable. Simple is very sustainable. So I would say, like, focus on one thing and go after that, and make sure every single day you're working towards that end goal.
That's so funny. So last night, Colin and I were watching one of our favorite shows. We were watching reruns of Parks and Rec. And there's this great character, and if you don't know Parks and Rec, you should watch it. There's this great character. His name is Ron Swanson. He's played by Nick Offerman. And one of his biggest pieces of advice to one of his coworkers and close friends was, don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing.
It's so true. It's so true. Because we split our energy. You know what I mean? So, and that's not to say you can't do 2 things simultaneously, but like, focus all of your like, from 12 till 3, you're only working on this. From 3 till 6, you're only working on this. You're still not going to be able to that gear shift, but you're going to have to take a break for lunch or meal. So make sure that your undivided attention goes towards that, and then take a break. Then undivided attention goes to that, then take a break, right? Because otherwise we're trying to do too many things and then we get lost. So
that, to me, adds another step to that. So you had preparation, prioritization. What else did we say? I can't remember the third one, but scheduling. I think if you're stuck in this busyness loop or this procrastination loop, or you're feeling inundated or overwhelmed, I think scheduling is a key to not only actual success and productivity, but to fulfillment and happiness, so that you're not splitting yourself in too many different directions. You're not becoming this Voldemort of life. Yes, I made a Harry Potter reference.
Which is why I love you. Part of why I love you. And I'll say this too, like, and we're going to tie this up now. We'll round this up. We can always come back again another point. I want to take a quick look at questions, and also say, oh my God, my brain is like slipping. When you schedule, sorry, my brain sometimes loses the thought. When you're scheduling, make sure you're also scheduling your self-care, because that's the first thing that will go. It's not just, it's not just like, oh, I have this appointment and oh, I have this meeting. It's got to be like, oh, I'm meditating at this time. I'm taking a hot bath with candles, or, I'm going for a walk, or I'm meeting with my friend for coffee. I think that can be part of self-care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's important to make sure that happens in there. It may seem silly, but if it's not in my calendar, it's not happening. And for a long time, I resisted that. And I was like, I work for myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm just going to go flow. That does not work. Take it from somebody who's done that. It does not work long term. So, all right, let's take a quick peek, see if anyone's watching with questions. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to work. Going to my page. Hold on. We're gabbing. Let's see what we've got. Where is it? Here it is. I don't see any questions live. So here's what I'm going to say. If you're watching live or you're watching on the recording, put your questions in there. Katryn and I will pop in. We'll respond and we'll have conversations with you. We're so excited that you guys are here. I hope this was helpful for everybody watching. Katryn, I hope it was insightful for you. I know you've taught me a lot today. I love hearing other people's perspectives and experiences. I think it reminds me that we're so much more alike than we are different, So go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say is that nobody's alone in these feelings, the feelings of anxiety and feeling busy. The reason I wanted to talk about this with you is because it's something that I'm currently working through and coming to terms with right now. So for anybody watching, by no means are we perfect. We have not gotten everything figured out yet. We're just as human as you are. And I just think it's more important to come together and have a conversation, an open conversation about it. Because I think if we can help one other person with coming to terms with certain things like this and maybe getting a little aha light bulb moment, then maybe it's one step closer to building a better community and being more connected again with other people in our lives.
Yeah. I think it's so easy to think that we're the only ones experiencing something. And I know for myself, I often feel like I didn't get all the information. Everybody knows more than me. Like, I don't know. And to being afraid to ask for help was a big thing for me, because I felt like I had to figure it all out for myself. And I think that as I've gotten older and as I've done the inner work and like it discovered and made the mistakes, and I'm able to help people with those pitfalls now a little bit better, because I can help navigate, in the work that I do as a coach and a yoga teacher and a lifestyle mentor. Like, really, like, I think that it's that navigation of those waters has become easier, because I kind of have, it's unique for each person a little bit, but it's not all that different. And I think that's the thing that I want people to remember, is that we're not all that different. Like, we're probably 1% unique and 99% the same, which is really kind of amazing, because in this culture, we tend to think of it in the opposite way. So I'm so grateful that you were willing to take time today to hop on this call with me, Katryn. It's always such a gift to share time with you and have a conversation with you. I'm so glad that we got to spend time and really like hang out at convention this year. It was really super fun.
Yay! It was the best. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so honored to have been your first guest.
Yay! And I hope this was helpful for everybody watching. Thanks so much. We'll have another one on Friday. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts, your questions, and your comments. Talk to you soon, guys.